Hello. I'm going to talk about reverence and devotion today. It's not an easy subject for me to talk about, and it's probably not an easy subject for you to be interested in, even maybe. But I'm going to have a go anyway. So, yes, yesterday was our Buddha Day. And, the Buddha died at least 2,500 years ago. And every May full moon we celebrate Buddha Day. We celebrate the Buddha's enlightenment. That profound experience that's very difficult for us to understand and is described in various ways. So because we're on Zoom, we didn't have our usual local Buddha Day. We had a worldwide Triratna Buddha Day on Zoom. And it was lovely. There were people from all over the world, from India, from Australasia, from Europe, everywhere. And so hundreds of us got together to meditate, to do puja. So I'm going to say more about that in a minute. And the wonderful thing was that we had Sangharakshita with us. Obviously, he died some time ago now. But we had a video of him talking about Buddha Day and talking about the significance of the Enlightenment, and in particular talking about reverence and devotion. It's a subject that I talk about quite a lot, and I'll come to the reasons for that later. So I thought I'd give an analogy really to help explain why it's important. So when we fall in love, it's a kind of a madness that takes us over, isn't it? We project something onto this other person of perfection. We think we've found the person that we've been looking for all our lives, and we don't really see the person. We don't see the person as they are in all their many manifestations. Basically, we see an idealised version of them. And that means that at some point, we can't keep that falling in love stage forever. It dries up eventually. It evaporates eventually. And we're left with seeing a real person. So what happens at that point? Well, it may be that we have a very superficial response, and we eject that person from our lives and we fall in love with somebody else. Or we may have a more mature response, and that response is that we get to know the person. And it might be actually that we find enough in the relationship that the relationship persists. So it might be that there were elements of that falling in love that we still love, but it becomes a loving relationship rather than simply a projection of our own wants and desires. Now, I think something similar can happen when we meet the Dharma, particularly when we meet meditation. So meditation is usually the way that we come to Buddhism. It's probably the most prominent way. And we learn to meditate, and perhaps we have some extreme experiences. For the first time we feel content, at ease. Basically we might fall in love with meditation. And then at the same time, maybe alongside that, we are introduced to the context of meditation. In other words, Buddhism. And the context that Buddhism gives us really reinforces and gives value, extra value to that meditation. The Buddha has shown us the way out of suffering. And, it can be a deep falling in love. And we get up excitedly every day to meditate, and we go to classes about Buddhism, and it's fantastic. But then something happens, after a while. Actually, it's a bit of an effort to get up. And we've done those same old meditations time and time again. And there are so many alternative ways alternative promises perhaps, of giving us a quick fix, of giving us happiness. Maybe there are easier ways than meditation and Buddhism. Or we've seen something on the television, or we've heard something through our Facebook network or whatever, and we go off and try something else. So that's the superficial way. That's the superficial way to try out Buddhism and meditation. Or we realise that actually we couldn't sustain those early experiences. Maybe we'd had beginner's mind with meditation, but now we've got to put the work in. We've got to really try extra hard to follow what the Buddha advised and give it a chance. So on meditation classes, I usually say, look, this won't benefit you if you just dabble with it once a week. If you come to a class once a week, if you've come to this course, if you've committed to this course, then commit yourself to really finding out, really exploring meditation. And I encourage people to try meditation every day for at least 6 months. Do mindfulness one day, metta the other, and continue like that. Because if you do them for 6 months and you don't feel any benefit, then give it up, go try something else. But at least you'll know that you've really explored it. So it's like any relationship, a relationship with anything. We need to put in the time. We need to really give it a chance to see what it's worth. So where does devotion and reverence come in? Well, alongside our meditation and the practice of the precepts, we explore the Buddha's life, and we explore all those early stories found in the Pali Canon of how the Buddha went about gaining enlightenment, and what was it that he learned, and what did he teach his disciples. And there's plenty of evidence of what he taught. One book that I think is very helpful to look at those early stories is a compilation from the Pali Canon called In the Buddha's Words. It's Bhikkhu Bodhi, I'm pretty sure it's Bhikkhu Bodhi who put that together. Yes, In the Buddha's Words. Because it's really important that we go back and we explore what it was like in the Buddha's time, what it was like to hear the Buddha's words. And I felt something of that hearing Bhante, hearing Sangharakshita yesterday at Buddha Day, because the faith, the confidence, faith that exudes from him is palpable, and it's what we need if we're going to really penetrate into the Dharma. So how do we do that? Well, I've already talked about the Puja in a lot of these short videos, so do listen to them if you're interested. But what I want to talk about just now for a moment is humility, the aspect of humility. If we don't recognise that we haven't got all the answers, if we can't recognise the gap that there is between us and a state of mind, a state of our own mind that's there to be found, then we won't really be able to transform ourselves. We need to recognise that gap, and we need to long to cross that gap. We need to have a real longing and desire to cross that gap. And the only way we can do that is by engaging our whole emotional life in that quest, you could say, our whole emotional life, to draw it in that direction. And puja the acts of worship where we recite again and again and again these verses and the precepts. In the puja, we express that longing, and we need to really find expression for our deepest longings. If we don't find expression, if we just occasionally think about it, it just doesn't have the same effect. And we're expressing it not with ourselves just alone, but with other people. So that combined longing, that combined intention to gain enlightenment is what will really make the difference, which will help us along, which will keep us in love with the Dharma, in love with meditation, but real love, not falling in love, but a love that engages our whole emotional life. So I hope some of that makes sense. I'll leave it there. Bye for now.